Welcome to High Output, the podcast exploring how today's engineering leaders are building tomorrow's high-performing teams. I'm your host, William Chang, and each episode, we sit down with visionary engineering leaders who are forging new paths in a rapidly evolving field. Join us as we gain a window into tomorrow's software organizations and discover what's next for our profession and the entire software industry. This episode is brought to you by Maestro AI. Engineering leaders, let's be real, understanding how your team is doing has never been more challenging, especially during this era of AI-powered transformation. You're trying to ship faster, keep your team healthy, and communicate value to stakeholders. That's where Maestro comes in. Maestro is an engineering visibility platform that marries smart metrics with narrative context. It enables you to understand what coding agents are doing, how individuals and teams are executing, and help you make better decisions faster. Visit getmaestro.ai for more info, because you don't know everything, but Maestro does. All right, I am super excited today to welcome our guest, Muddassar Shaikh, a seasoned engineering executive who has spent nearly 2 decades scaling technology organizations across some of the most recognizable names in consumer technology. He's held senior engineering roles at Beachbody and Ticketmaster, where he grew the app install base to 42 million users and built APIs serving over 2 billion queries, before spending the last 5+ years at GoodRx, where he recently stepped into the role of Senior Vice President of Engineering. He started his career as a software engineer and has lived through multiple waves of transformation in this industry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, William. Thank you for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, well, let's dive right in. How did you get to where you are today? Super impressive with, Ticketmaster, GoodRx. These are names that everybody's heard of.
Yeah. Well, I started my career in the wake of the dot-com bust. That's when I graduated from engineering, and the software services industry was booming in India, and I got swept into the industry. I did my engineering as a telecom engineer.
Interesting.
Yeah, here I am, having spent 20 plus years building software for a number of companies. Went through the rigor, built a number of apps, both on the consumer side, on the enterprise side, for very large financial companies, airline companies, and for the last 12 or so years in a lot of consumer tech. And went from being an IC to being an engineering leader. I felt, and I had a lot of very good mentors along the way who saw the potential in me. But I also found and experienced that I could have a much larger impact in the engineering leadership role by applying not just technology, but also leveraging the people I have in my teams and processes to help the business solve more complex and a wider impact problem. And again, just like anybody else, I went through the career ladder leading from one team, purely backend focused. I started out as a backend engineer, and for the longest of time, I was building Java applications. And I grew through the ranks, like building. I'll date myself. Like I built a lot of JSPs and EJBs, and here I am leading the AI transformation at GoodRx.
That's an amazing journey. Do you like the, getting hands-on still? Do you still have any time to jump in and do any deep technical work? Or they're very different thoughts by leaders, right? Some leaders want to spend some of their time still,
Yeah,
hands deep in code. Other
yeah,
leaders say, well, look, I don't have time for that. So
yeah.
how do you feel about that?
I try to keep my hands dirty, but I don't try to. I don't get in the way of my team because I know I have a lot of other roles to play. So I always have code checked out. I'm involved in I'm looking at code, reviewing it. I've always had a side project that I'm always building so that I'm current with whatever my team is working on. If my team is building Go services, I go build services using Go on the side. If my teams are checking out the latest in React and Next ecosystem, I'm going and building something in that same space so that I have opinions on what they are working on. I'm able to ask the right questions. That's important to me. That I'm informed enough to be able to ask the right questions of my team and have the right levels of accountability. I have really capable leaders responsible for a number of functions in my org, but being aware helps me have that next level of conversation with my team.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
fantastic way to balance it.
yeah,
Because how are you going to, as you said, how are you going to ask the right questions if you don't know the technology, you don't know the
yeah,
limitations? Yeah,
yeah,
that's very smart.
yeah. And with AI, it has become easier and easier for engineering leaders who have stepped away from code for a long time to re-engage. Sometimes the technology evolves much faster than what you are able to keep pace with because the needs of the job requires you to spend more time horizontally with other peers who are non-technical. You have to take a look at the organizational health. You have to take a look at how, if your teams and you are taking financially prudent decisions, how are you shaping up in terms of technology evolution? How tech forward do you want to be, or if you want to move slowly? So you're taking a lot of strategic decisions, and intentionally or unintentionally, you stay away from code. But with AI and with how fast Cursor and Claude are getting better, especially Claude, all of the code that I have checked out, I can always point Claude to it and say, okay, hey, what exactly is going on in this space?
Hmm.
And or explain this particular complexity to me that I would have to dig through the code. Now I don't. I can just get a quick summary, and if I need to go look at a specific implementation, I can also ask it to go take me to that place, so I can read through
Yeah.
the code. Yeah,
Yeah. I've heard at some organizations, the leaders are even, vibe coding their fixes and,
yeah,
pushing them in and that sort of thing too. So
yeah.
gives a lot of power to people.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the things that I asked my at the beginning of this year, we had a strategy conversation. And I said we have to transform the organization to be an AI native org. We had a lot of conversation, and the North Star that we landed on is that this can be the start of a great joke, but also in this context, a product leader, an engineering leader, and a design leader, or a product manager and a designer and an engineer walk into a room and then jam on the idea together. And they come out with a working prototype. Instead of coming out with a spec,
Hmm.
they come out from that jamming session with a working prototype, then that they can then hand off to a team that can take it to production, that can apply the rigor that a production grade application needs, like make it secure, make it scalable, make sure it adheres to the standards that the teams have set for architecture, for code, for quality controls. And one of the things that my team built recently, because we decided to get to that North Star state incrementally. One of the things my team's built is Jira automation. So if you have a spec written, all you have to do is add a label or add a bot, and it will read the Jira specification. It will recognize what parts of the code needs to change. It will go make the changes. We have also open sourced this. It's called Lifecycle. We have a mechanism to create ephemeral environments
Hmm.
to test code really quickly. So it creates a PR, it deploys it to that ephemeral environment, and sends a link as a Jira comment to both the PR and that ephemeral environment. So you can go and code. You can go and test the changes that you just made. And we have had a lot of product managers starting to deploy quick fixes, like if it's a copy change or if it's a quick SEO change. AI has truly enabled me to democratize access to code and removing the boundaries that existed in the past. That only certain functions will be able to do certain kinds of jobs and roles.
Well, what's interesting is there were almost two different strategies you mentioned there, right? Or two
Yeah.
two different approaches. One approach is, hey, these people come together and instead of a spec, they have a prototype. But then I'm also hearing you have, current product managers able to actually get a change and push the PR directly. Do you view both of those as the process at the same time? Like, for example, for larger things, maybe you need the first, and then for smaller changes, do the second? Or is it, one over the other? Like, how are you thinking about that?
I see these as different tools in a toolkit. I see the need for both and maybe other strategies as well or other tactics as well. And I also explained the first as a North Star. We are not there yet. Some other things need to happen. And just like any other company, we have organizational challenges as well. We have an SDLC or PDLC that also needs to evolve as AI drives more and more efficiencies in all functions. So I see both of these occurring at my company and at other companies. I also see other patterns emerging. And if I can talk a bit more about the PDLC, like you typically have a product manager talking to a business stakeholder, and then either a new lead or a new business expansion is coming along, and then the product ideas come out of those engagements with business owners, and then those get translated into product specs that then is handed off to a designer or design team who creates visual artifacts. Then somebody in the technical domain, an architect or a tech lead, creates tech feasibility or technical diagrams and documents. And how agents work will be different in the future. And we have a lot of potential of leakage along the way as these handoffs are happening between different roles. And what AI will do and is already doing is diffusing these different roles. So one person can play multiple roles.
Mhm.
So we can find efficiencies into how each function performs their function, performs their role. We can also find ways to reduce the leakage as handoffs go on. Or we can completely eliminate certain handoffs. And we can say, hey, why don't you, as a business owner, you can chat with an agent, and the output of that chat session would be a PRD that then goes to somebody who plays the role of a product manager designer
Mhm.
who's reviewing the output, but also has integrations. Like Figma Code Connect is doing amazing things, and Claude has integrations with almost all kinds of design tools, and tools like Paperclip and Pencil have more native integrations with Claude. And as a company, I have invested in a design system, and you can use those design systems. A product manager, designer, or a designer who's playing the role of a product manager can create design artifacts or visual artifacts at the same time as generating some working prototype that, like I explained, the engineer can take further. So I see certain steps in the PDLC collapsing, as at the same time certain roles fusing as well as we see efficiencies coming in from AI.
Well, how, project this forward, to closer to that North Star era,
Mm.
I don't know if that's a year or however long it takes. What are the roles that shake out, right? So what are the skills that people have to learn? And what I'm hearing from you is maybe the future engineer is not just the person who writes the code. Maybe they have to think
Yeah.
about architecture. Maybe they have to understand product a little bit as well. Like, how do you see these condensing? Like, what are the new roles?
People who were mostly human conduits of information uh, will become less and less relevant. In a lot of cases, recalling information was seen as a highly in demand skill. So the more information that you can hold and recall was something that gave you a lot of leverage. Now, a lot of that is not relevant anymore because AI can hold a lot more information and recall a lot of that information much faster than a human can. So the roles will be more on who can have a higher level of thinking, who can provide more of a strategic oversight onto these army of agents that are available at your disposal for whatever function or role that you're trying to perform. Be it like business strategy, are you able to think more deeply into that particular domain? So domain expertise will become more important, not less important. The act of coding itself will become less and less important because AI can do most of it. It's about how you stitch systems together. When it comes to the engineering discipline itself, like it's about system thinking. How do different systems interact with each other? How do you scale the swarm of agents that are available to you to create high quality work? I see team sizes shrinking over time. Coming back to the question that you originally asked, like what roles will exist? We will always have a technical role. Like some people are saying, oh, you can, software engineering as a profession will go away. I don't see that happening. You'll still need people who can guide and editorialize the output that a model is generating for you. And how you guide is going to be extremely important. So your ability to think deep, your ability to give really clear specs, and your ability to write clear evaluations of the output is going to be more important. So a senior engineer will be able to do the work of many other senior engineers and many other junior engineers. And this is
Hmm.
for the craft itself, for the craft of software engineering. This is a dilemma that a lot of thought leaders are putting into as well. If we don't have a lot of junior engineers, then how will we have senior engineers of the future? Who will be able to perform the role that senior engineers of today are able to do?
Hmm. Well, actually, in that lens, right, what are you seeing in your organization? Because I've heard very mixed things from folks. Some people say, look, my senior engineers are doing fantastic. They're
Yeah,
leveraging these tools really well. Other people say my staff, senior engineers, are actually the most hesitant about this stuff because they could write really great code to begin with,
yeah.
and now the model outputs may be worse than what they feel like they could do by hand. Whereas in that some of those organizations, maybe the junior engineers are actually the ones that are able to jump on the bandwagon and learn
Yes.
something new faster. So what are you seeing in your organization? How is that shaking out?
We started on our path to AI adoption last year. And even at the beginning of this year, I had only 50% adoption of AI tools within my engineering team. Now, before I started another push for, hey, it is to the detriment for the company if you're not adopting AI to accelerate the work that you're doing. And I saw the same reluctance. I saw some people really jumping on and leveraging AI more extensively. Some people were really reluctant in taking on, and a part of it is the love for the craft. Like people have spent a lot of time honing their skills and getting really good at whatever framework or technology or language they chose to become experts in. For the most part, I still believe humans are able to write better quality code than a model can. And what you said is true. I'm seeing that the younger engineers or the more junior engineers are, because this is the only world they've seen, they're able to adopt it more natively than some other engineers. But at the same time, a lot of really senior engineers are able to blend their experiences that they have gathered over the years and deploy them. I've seen examples where people are able to codify their experiences and the patterns that they've used over the years into skills. That 10x is their impact, like the unicorn that everybody talked about, the 10x engineer. So that is now possible because people are able to build upon their experiences, not just based on the recall, but they're able to now codify, write a skill, and deploy that skill to have a repeatable impact every single day on the
Mm-hmm.
work output. And we have built skill libraries internally. So now I'm seeing like people sharing those skill libraries. I've created an AI community of practice where people can come in and share the best practices. So there's more diffusion of knowledge because the level of maturity and adoption is different among different people. And
Yeah.
that's how I'm encouraging more knowledge sharing so that people who were sitting on the fence, they can see a lot of people benefiting and they can leverage the best practices and the experiences of people who are at the forefront of leading that change. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing less and less resistance or reluctance now, and the adoption is definitely getting gotten closer to 80% now.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Could you walk me through how you did that skill sharing and that knowledge transfer piece of it? Because that seems pretty hard. Talk to a lot of other engineering leaders who don't have it figured out. So if you
Yeah.
figured out something good here, love to learn.
Yeah. I would say this is part of my playbook. I've led technology transformation and organizational transformations at a number of companies. And
Hmm.
one of the things I did early on at GoodRx was a technology transformation. We were migrating from legacy technology to new sets of technologies, and we moved from monolith to microservices. I introduced GraphQL at the company. We rewrote our app using Next.js and web app using Next.js and React. We modularized our native apps as well. And this playbook was something I applied or learned while I was going through that transformation. Because of the way the first set of changes were deployed, there was some lost trust between platform teams who are bringing about the change and engineers who are adopting the change. So one of the things I brought in during the time is, okay, let's work on enablement, and that enablement was through these mechanisms. We said, okay, we will have knowledge sharing sessions, we will have pair programming sessions, we will create communities of practice, so that you're aware of the changes that we are bringing in at the core foundational level, so that you get the support you need to adapt to a new way of working. That's the same playbook and that was immensely successful. We went from we use qualitative surveying tools which measures developers, both developer experience and developer sentiment, and that was extremely negative when we first started the transformation, to seeing like 30 plus point difference from the time that we started measuring to the
Wow.
time we completed the transformation. And we did that through that intentional effort on enablement and bringing people along the journey. And I'm using the exact same playbook as I go about with this AI transformation. I mean, like we have a lot of extremely talented people who have a lot of useful insights to share, and these talented engineers and product managers and designers, they all have very creative solutions to the problems that they are solving day to day. And making this forum available, one, creates awareness for the work that they're doing. So it's also partly personal branding for them, and also helps their peers along the way.
Really interesting. And your observation that this transformation, while it is a huge change and lots of things are changing, fundamentally it is just another transformation. And we've gone
Yep.
through a lot of these in the past.
We
So,
have. It's not a new thing. It's like has evolved. Like there was a point in time where everybody was moving from on-prem deployments to cloud infrastructure, and that was a transformation. There was a huge wave of migrations into microservices at certain points, and that was an era of transformation. I see this new way of work going into adopting AI into how we do work as just another transformation. So playbooks that other engineering leaders have deployed for their previous transformations do apply in this context as well.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What is, I mean, this one feels a little different though, right? Because there's some aspect of, okay, people's roles are going to be
Yes.
changing more
Yeah.
drastically and everything.
Yeah.
What do you think has to happen differently this time around versus the
There's
same?
Yeah, previous transformations were primarily human driven, and
Mm,
now you have to manage humans and you have to manage non-humans, the agents, and the existential dread that a lot of people are facing. And that's real, the existential dread that, hey, is this role even going to be around
hmm
2 years or 5 years from now? So we can do more and we can solve more kinds of problems. And also with how fast companies like Anthropic and OpenAI both are able to release changes, a lot of apps will become irrelevant, right? They are able
mm,
to iterate much faster because they have almost an infinite amount of compute, and they are deploying millions of agents in solving problems. Just in it, the pace of change is so fast. I used to have a daily brief on the going on in the AI world, and now I have a weekly brief because I'm like I cannot keep up with a daily brief. I need to have a weekly brief because that's how fast teams are able to deploy changes, and that's just the new reality.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, has it all been positive, or are there any tricky parts that that need to work through? For example, code quality, or is testing becoming a concern? Are there anything there that you see needing to shift priorities?
Absolutely. With primarily a human driven world, we used to have the PR process, we used to have an architecture review process. And now, with more and more content being generated by models, the paradigms need to change. Does the quality of code, like how it is syntactically written, does it matter? If AI is going to write code, but also subsequently for all fixes, AI is also going to read and make changes to that code.
Hmm.
The bar for quality, product quality, cannot reduce, so we have to have stronger harnesses to test the changes. We've had There have been reports of changes at much bigger companies being rolled out with AI that have caused business impact.
Yeah.
So yeah, we will need stronger harnesses and quality controls. I feel, again, a controversial take, the quality of code will matter less and less. It's
Mm.
the outcome that comes out of the coding session and the final output that's going to matter. So if you're able to write a well-defined spec,
Mhm.
and if you have well-architected harnesses to evaluate the output of the prompt, then how the code is actually written will matter less and less over a period of time. Not immediately, but eventually.
Yeah, yeah. At the end of the day, the job of code is to have some impact, right? It's to do
Yeah.
something. And if those requirements are being met along with other compliance type requirements, security,
Yeah.
etc.,
Mhm.
yeah, who cares if it's 100, the line breaks are at 100 characters or 200
Yeah.
characters
Mhm.
or variables are named in some human readable manner or not.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've gone through a lot, Muddassar,
Yeah.
from how you started off as telecom engineer to leading teams to running through multiple transformations in your time just at GoodRx even. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, William, for having me on the show.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of High Output. If today's conversation was useful, please take a moment to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Engineering leadership is evolving rapidly, and we're committed to bringing you insights from the front lines every week. Visit getmaestro.ai/highoutput for show notes, transcripts, and past episodes. Until next time, I'm William Chang, and this has been High Output, where we explore how today's engineering leaders are building tomorrow's high-performing teams.